What is up, guys? Mike here, and yes, face cams have returned, which means from now on you can expect face cams on every single one of these videos again, on every single second channel video. In other words, what I'm saying is now you're kind of stuck with me. And so with that in mind, we are going to start off this video right from the jump with just two absurd facts. Now, both of these facts will be explained in greater detail later, but for now, I just feel like we need to set the stage. And so, fact number one, in the 1997 season, Michael Jordan made $30.14 million, which in today's current NBA would actually make him underpaid. But in the 1997 season, the salary cap for an entire team's roster was just $24.3 million. This meant that at the time, Michael had a larger salary than the entire team salaries of 21 other NBA franchises. And you might be questioning this, you might be wondering, how did that possibly happen? Well, that leads us to fact number two, because in the summer leading up to the 97 season, Michael Jordan was a free agent, and somehow David Stern allowed the New York Knicks to not only offer the completely rule-abiding $12 million of salary cap space they had, but also David Stern actually made the decision to allow the Knicks to offer an extra $15 million on top that did not count towards New York's salary cap, but instead was declared as an endorsement deal for Sheraton Hotels, aka the hotel chain that was owned by the Knicks owners. Yes, you heard that correct. David Stern tried to allow the Knicks to sponsor their own player. What? So that is what we are doing today. We are looking at the time that Michael Jordan almost became a New York Knick because of some shady at best circumstances. Honestly, I still cannot believe David Stern did what he did, but enough face cam for now, let's get into the video. So now, let's take a trip back to 1996, a season that saw Michael Jordan win his fourth MVP while also leading the Chicago Bulls to a then NBA record 72 wins, and unlike a certain recent team that I think we all know decently well, the Bulls would finish their record season by winning their fourth championship in 6 years. Don't mean a thing without a ring. Anyway, because of this, you might think that headed into the summer of 96, the relationship between the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan would be pretty much perfect. However, as the saying goes, if an NBA player is in a fight with someone, that fight 99% of the time has to do with either money or women. In today's video, we are going to be focusing on the money aspect of that fight, because looking back to 1989 now, Jordan would actually start that season in the first year of an 8-year, yes, I said $25 million contract that was actually considered at the time, quote, groundbreaking. This was because in 1989, the salary cap was just $7.23 million. However, by the time the cap had tripled by the 1996 season, suddenly the undisputed best player in the NBA was not even a top 30 paid player, and so the man was looking to get paid here. This was obviously understandable, and at the time, coincidentally, Patrick Ewing was actually the league's highest paid player with a salary of $18 million. And so it would be $18 million that Michael would consider as the starting point for his free agent negotiation. And at first, everything seemed fine here. The Bulls were actually willing to give up $20 million as sort of a bonus payment for the last few seasons where Mike was underpaid. It is at this point in the story, though, where who else but the New York Knicks enter the scene. The Knicks were fully aware that Michael's relationship with Chicago was rocky at best, and equipped with a roster that included two of the rarest people in the world. And by that, I mean two men who Michael Jordan has publicly stated are his friends in Patrick Ewing and Charles Oakley. The Knicks did make the decision that now was the perfect time to go all out and make a franchise-changing move. They desperately wanted to sign Jordan, and armed with around $12 million in cap space, a number that was about half of the $24.3 million salary cap for the 97 season, just to start things off, off here, it did look like New York had a solid chance. Then when you combine that with the fact that the Knicks would team up with both Michael Jordan's agent and David Stern, aka the NBA's commissioner, aka one of the biggest Knicks fans the world has ever seen. I mean, as you're about to see, for a brief period in time, the NBA and the salary cap and all of that stuff became basically a free-for-all. Now, more specifically here, it was David Stern who I blame for basically all of this. And I also want to back up my statement here that he is one of, if not the biggest Knicks fan of all time. I mean, what other NBA fan has literally rigged a draft to get their favorite team the #1 pick? That is dedication. And it is also incredibly shady, and the entire frozen envelope conspiracy slash situation was actually an incredible demonstration of David Stern's fandom, and one of the shadiest things the NBA has possibly ever seen. This frozen envelope conspiracy is also one of the biggest reasons why I think what David Stern did for the Knicks during the summer of 1996 in order to help them sign Jordan was, I mean, crazy, horrible, unprofessional. To show you what I mean here, remember, the Knicks had $12 million in cap space to start. But before we continue on to that, guys, I want to talk about a returning sponsor to this channel, Mack Weldon. Now, the first time I did a Mack Weldon ad, I bragged about the shirt I was wearing because it was so comfortable, and I do really love their clothes. Ever since I got the first shipment they sent me in the first ad, I've been just wearing their clothes all the time because they are comfortable and I do really like the way they look. And as I continue modeling, let me tell you about Mack Weldon as a company because I think they're very unique. Now, Mack Weldon believes in 3 things. The first is premium fabrics, which means no matter what, you are going to be getting high quality clothing that you are also very comfortable in. The second thing Mack Weldon believes in is superior designs. What I mean by that is that this shirt is specifically made to eliminate odor. And if we're being honest with ourselves, I mean, sometimes we need that. We're not all perfect. With that said, the third thing that Mack Weldon believes in is simple shopping. Just looking at their site right now, not only does Mack Weldon have so many different high quality clothing products that you can choose from, but they also have a very easy site to use that makes shopping easy. To me, that is the perfect combination. I mean, great clothes, easy shopping process. What more could you ask for? And again, guys, I myself am personally vouching for these clothes. I love them, but even if you don't feel the same way after ordering, Mack Weldon as a company will give you a refund on your order. Again, pretty great deal, which means if you want comfortable clothes that are also very fashionable, make sure to visit MackWeldon.com right now and use the promo code Korzemba for 20% off your first order. The link to MackWeldon.com will also be in my description. Trust me, you're gonna like what you get from there, but for now, let's continue on with the video. In order to really convince Mike to leave the city he had already won 4 championships in, the Knicks knew they needed to come up with an almost unbeatable offer here. This meant that New York's core ownership group at the time offered Mike both a $12 million salary and an extra $15 million to be the spokesman of the hotel chain the Knicks owners also owned, Sheraton Hotels. This meant that New York's real offer now stood at $27 million, but when it came to the Knicks official team's salary, the number next to Mike's name would only be $12 million. The other $15 million was seen as a fair sponsorship deal. Immediately, I know what you're thinking. Aren't teams not allowed to do anything remotely like sponsoring their own players with money that does not count towards the salary cap? Wouldn't, I don't know, allowing offers like that kind of make the salary cap irrelevant while also at the same time ruining the competitive balance in the NBA? Yes, allowing that kind of offer would do all of that. And because they knew this, the Chicago Bulls immediately complained as much as they possibly could about Stern's decision, but the commish stood strong here. If anything like this happened now, I'm pretty sure the entire internet would explode with hate over this decision. I mean, look what happened when David Stern vetoed the Chris Paul trade. Take that and replace the team that Chris Paul eventually went to, the Clippers, with the New York Knicks. And then forget about Chris Paul's salary. I mean, that doesn't count towards the salary cap. Chris Paul is just getting paid $40 million to sponsor the hot dog stand outside MSG. That would not have gone over well. However, according to David Stern at the time, Michael Jordan's popularity was so overwhelming that his clout alone was able to literally change NBA rules. On the plus side though, this also led to Mike getting paid. Because as you'd expect, Jordan's agent pulled the whole, "you have one day to make a decision or we're out of here" thing, and it worked. I mean, this is Michael Jordan. The Chicago Bulls are not going to lose it. The funny thing here, though, is that the only reason this did work was because on top of this new decision to allow teams to pay their players under the table, the NBA also already had a very dumb rule in place called the Larry Bird exception. Now, this rule has evolved over the years. It is where Bird years are based on, but at the time, this rule was just ridiculous. That's really the only way to describe it, because the Larry Bird exception was a rule that allowed teams to re-sign their own players for any amount of money. It did not matter at all how much that team went over the salary cap. If that was your player that you were re-signing, offer him whatever you want. Because of this, Chicago ended up paying Jordan $30.14 million in 1997, a number that was just about 25% more than the actual salary cap at the time. To put this into perspective, the NBA salary cap for 2019 was about $110 million. That means that if in 2019 LeBron James got the same type of deal from the Lakers that Michael Jordan got from the Bulls, LeBron would have been paid $137.5 million for one season. And for everyone thinking at home that LeBron would deserve this type of money, you have to remember that there is a salary cap for a reason. If there wasn't one, Clippers owner Steve Ballmer would probably use his reported $45 to $50 billion net worth to simply outbid every other team for any player he really wanted. Just look at this guy right here. He is a die-hard basketball fan. He has already committed $1 billion to create a new home arena for the Clippers, and when you compare Steve Ballmer, who is, by the way, the 19th richest man in the world, to an average NBA owner who is worth around $1.5 billion, you could clearly see just how off the rails the NBA could possibly get if teams were able to just offer whatever they want. And that is exactly what David Stern allowed the Knicks to do. He let them offer an extra $15 million for no clear good reason that has ever been established. Honestly, I've given this a lot of thought, and I think what happened here is that after the whole frozen envelope thing, Stern realized that he had put his entire career in jeopardy to get Patrick Ewing to the Knicks, and the man still did not win them a title. In other words, I think he might have got a little desperate here. And if you're wondering just how good the 1997 Knicks would have been if Michael Jordan was on their team, well, without Mike, the Knicks that year were still able to have a very solid season in what was really Patrick Ewing's last year as a top-tier player in the NBA. As behind Ewing's second-team All-NBA season that year, New York would win 57 games and ended up losing in 7 games in the second round of the playoffs to a 61-win Miami Heat team. To me, this means that even though the Knicks would not have been able to sign a few key players such as Allen Houston if they had given Mike their entire salary cap, plus, as we already talked about, somewhere in the range of 9 personal Sheraton hotels, I do think we can safely say that Jordan and Ewing would have brought the Knicks to at least the NBA Finals, and personally, I believe they would have won the whole thing that year. As for the 1998 season, things would not have gone as well, as Ewing did miss almost the entire season with a horrible wrist injury, and without Patrick, it would have been really tough for Mike to bring the Knicks a second straight championship. Actually, I know what you're already thinking. You're right, he is the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time. The Knicks probably would have cruised to 77 wins and swept a Jazz team that somehow had LeBron James on. You know why? Because that's what Michael Jordan did. And that, guys, wraps up today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you're new to the channel and you love basketball content like this, just make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a video. If you're already subscribed, you are awesome. We all know it. And as always, have an awesome day, guys, and cue that music. By the way, if you're still here while the music is cued, here are 2 videos I think you are going to love watching. All you have to do is just click on either one of them on the screen right here. And other than that, guys, again, have a great day and peace.